So thanks guys for coming and listening to this talk, adapting the assessment approach. So basically taking the marshmallows out of assessment centres. Just as a bit of an introduction, so my name's Chris Piercy. I'm the Talent Acquisition Manager for Aolcom. I've been with the company for nearly 3 years now. 8 years recruitment experience, both recruitment agency, RPO and internal.
And I'm Melissa Taylor. Been with AO now for about 3.5 years, talent acquisition lead. So my recruitment predominantly looks after our full contact centre and our business area as too. Yeah, been in recruitment for about 5 years now, internally for the last 3.5.
So I'll just tell you, for those that don't know about AO.com, we're an online e-commerce retailer that was established in the year 2000, so we're 19 years old now. Started off a £1 bet in a pub. John Roberts, our founder, bet that you couldn't sell white goods online. So initially we were selling fridges and washing machines, but we're a lot more diverse now across laptop, computing, electronics, and even gardening now, which we've just moved into. We have recycling plants down in Brighton and in Telford as well, distribution in Crewe, but we're also in Europe with Holland and Germany as well. Our recruitment process and how we recruit is very much down to our purpose as a business and our values and culture. So we do recruit off our core values. So the purpose that we have as a business is to have the happiest customers by relentlessly striving for a better way. And as a recruitment team, we've kind of took that on and made it our own by trying to really understand who our customers are as a recruitment business, as opposed to AO's customers. So for us, that would be the candidates that are applying for the roles and going through our recruitment process, our stakeholders, so the hiring managers, but also the brand AO as a company as well. So we have our 5 core values as well that we use as kind of an assessment criteria for that culture fit for what we're looking for. And I know that a lot of people question sometimes around hiring for culture fit, and are you being inclusive with that? And our values, it's not about trying to find someone that I can sit in the pub with and have a beer with, someone that likes rugby league like I do. I'm not looking for them sort of people. I'm looking for people that are really passionate about what they do and that have that real sort of caring attitude and that drive to go forward. So that's just a little bit about sort of how we base our recruitment.
And the values are a massive part of us. So one thing I'll add to that is coming into the business, you can see and feel them everywhere that you are. They're not just something that we have in place purely for having them in place. There isn't a single person that you could stop within AO that wouldn't be able to share what those values are. So we reward based on them, we recruit based on them, and we manage based on them as well. So a little bit of a backstory to give you some of the challenges that we were facing as a recruitment function at the time. I think a big one for us that we were a very reactive team. So looking specifically at our contact centre recruitment and our volume recruitment, we were very much just churning over the numbers that were coming through without actually looking at what was dropping out at the bottom. So we were just topping it back up again. So very reactive. We actually just had one person doing the full recruitment team on her own for that area. So it was one person recruiting about 150 people in a calendar year into the business. Some of the challenges specifically with assessment centres was pretty low attendance. So we were aiming to get 10 people on, probably having about 6 or 7 showing, and then off the back of that being pretty pleased if we were getting 3 offers. So less than 50% conversion. High attrition, which is what we just mentioned, which we were letting people leave the company without actually looking at what those reasons were why, and just literally filling it back up again, which again was a big fundamental flaw for us. And the poor performance element splits into 2 parts. One is during the assessment, we didn't really have much to assess off. When you actually broke it down and took a look at it, what we were assessing and the way that we were doing it didn't really serve a purpose. So it was poor performance from our candidates, but we were setting them up to fail. And it was poor performance from our stakeholders that were in there and assessing, because again, they were disinterested. It didn't serve a purpose for them either. So we had quite a lot of challenges, in sort of one go there.
Yeah, so one of the things that we always wanted to have for AO was to make our candidate's journey and experience a fun process, and I think we were a little bit guilty of maybe taking that a bit too far in the approach for the type of tasks that we do in the assessment centres, and what real purpose they served. So the fact that we had people building products with spaghetti and marshmallows, we didn't really know why we were doing that and what we were taking from it. And do you know what? It's good to do an assessment centre if you know why you're doing it and what you're taking from it. It's like the question about tell me what kind of biscuit you'd be. It's like, for me, I'm really not a big fan of that question at all. And I had to Google what biscuit I was, and I'm a chocolate digestive for many reasons. But you know, some people use it and get real value from it. It's a way of finding how creative they are. For me and for AO, we wanted to just totally sort of revitalise that. So
looking at the purpose, you know, what's the purpose of doing things, and not just making opinion-led decisions. And I think just adding to that, another major challenge for us was that we weren't collaborating with our stakeholders, with our hiring managers, with other departments. We were sort of making decisions on a bit of a whim in what we thought was the right thing to do, and that was a big flaw for us as well. So going through from a plan, so the first thing that we needed to do was look at why it was going wrong. So where did we have the issues that we were currently experiencing? So with anything, when you're going to make a change, you need a bit of a strategy and to have some backup with that. One of the first things that we did was sit down with the hiring managers, with the stakeholders from those departments, and let them go a little bit loose on what they thought of the process. Giving you an example, I shadowed one of the assessment centres when we had the marshmallows in place, and was a little bit confused as to why it was there and what we were gaining from it. So I asked our hiring managers, what are you looking for at this point when you're watching the candidates? I don't know, how good the model is, I was like, we literally was completely lost with it, so it just didn't serve its purpose. And I think understanding from those guys, what is it that you want to see, and breaking that down to what would allow you to understand if a candidate is right or wrong from the role, and then splitting it into the different areas. So focus groups, we took some of the core sales, customer experience and B2B agents from across the business. We've got a real range of diversity across gender and different profiles, different lengths of services, and sat down with them and took them through the assessment process and got their feedback. Of course, we looked at the market as well from a research perspective to understand what are other businesses doing, what are other assessment centres looking like for us. HIGS, that's our How's It Going chats. We now run regular How's It Going chats as a department where every single person within a 250 FTE gets to sit down every quarter with someone from the recruitment or HR team just to understand how things are going for them. So we're really in the detail of how those agents then performing once they're in the role. Linked it closely with our L&D team. Again, we were pretty separate and working isolated rather than including those around us that could really add value. So for us, it was looking at what we were going to introduce into assessment centres and getting their take on it. So how could we make it more engaging? So if we know we're looking for this type of person and these are the skills we want to test for, how can we make it so it's inclusive, so it's fair? So we're testing for a range of different skills, and they helped us to really build and put together some really great tasks. And then finally was creating some personas. So we wanted profiles. What does that ideal candidate look like? So based on everything we've got here, it was getting ourselves and the hiring managers on the same page, so that going into an assessment, going onto a telephone interview, going into a face-to-face, we were both looking for the same person and that same profile, and we were being fair about it, and we were assessing it at the right points during the recruitment process.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the customer, and I mentioned about one of the customers being our candidate. So for us, a huge thing was a huge thing for us was around that candidate experience and why we were delivering that experience. And no matter if you're in high volume recruitment, such as the contact centre, or if you're recruiting for IT, the good candidates, they will have other opportunities. So it's gone beyond the days where you sit and you grill someone and it's up to them to prove themselves to you. It's so competitive now, regardless of the market that you're in, about proving yourself to the candidate, making sure you're the employer of choice. So we created this experience that well, Mel will go into it in a little bit more detail in a bit, but basically that just made them feel at home, made them feel welcome. So the first thing that we did, which sounds really obvious, is just take them on a tour of the building, show them the offices, get a feel for the environment, the culture, what it's like, and tell them a bit about ourselves as well. So when we'd always introduce ourselves, talk about what we do with the business, how long we've been there, but we talk about ourselves outside of work as well, just to give them a bit of an emphasis as to how we are as a business. It certainly just settles them in more. But for us, it's the assessment centre. It has to reflect our values as well. So if you're a corporate company, don't try and hide that fact, because you'll lose the guys in the long run. So just be true to who you are. For us, we try to be too fun. And that's where it kind of took away a lot of the culture that we are outside of that one value. We've got another 4 values outside of that, which is smart, driven, caring, and bold. So it was about how we get that into the experience for that candidate as well. Not only are we trying to reflect it, we want to protect it. So getting the people in that have them values, it was so important at the same time. And then off the back of that, one of the things that we found really challenging and difficult was the touch points with the candidates, because it's high volume. Especially at the start of the funnel, you can be talking to hundreds of candidates, and it's making sure that each candidate gets the same level of experience, no matter how far they get through the process. We really want to focus on whether you're successful or not, that you come away knowing that you've had a really good time. It wasn't stressful. You got a good feel for the environment, the culture, and what we are like as a business.
And just on the back of that as well, it's equipping our team. So as a manager, it was equipping the recruitment team and the recruiters so that they were really bought into the role. So I got them to spend time in the department, immersing themselves in that role, so they knew it inside out and they were excited about the things. So rather than reading off a script to say, we have really great awards evenings, what are those awards evenings, what do they look like, what do we recognise people for, the things that they could really shout about to get the candidates buy-in at the very early stages. So then we got, off the back of that, some small wins in terms of the amount of people that were turning up at assessments. In terms of other touch points, we really guide them through the journey, so it isn't just a telephone interview and we'll see you at the assessment. We touch in between that, so they'll get a confirmation email. We'll then send them a really nice text with a couple of tips on there, and then the day before we give everyone a courtesy call just to make sure they know where they're going and they know where to find us, so that when we are communicating back with the stakeholders, the number that we're telling them is going to be attending the next day is pretty accurate, rather than us over-promising and under-delivering.
That was one of the really big challenges for us, was coming to that day of the assessment centre, making sure that everyone that had agreed and committed to come in did turn up, because we did have a very high drop-off rate. So it was something that, through the work that we've done, we'll touch on in a couple of slides' time, but show how we managed that.
Yep, so specifically the content. So I'll just talk you through briefly what the assessment centre actually looked like to what it does now. So the assessment centre used to come in, they would have a tour, we'd run them through a presentation which was probably far too much detail that they'd be interested in about the history of AO, and we would then get them to introduce themselves. Pretty daunting. We'd ask them to give a brief intro of themselves with a couple of bullet points. We would then, that's an individual exercise, we would then get them to do an exercise as a group, and we would split them off, give them a packet of marshmallows and a packet of spaghetti, and ask them to build us something significant with it. I'm not joking, that was actually a thing. So yeah, interesting hiring manager feedback from that exercise. And then their final exercise was a written exercise, because we do have live chat teams and things like that available. And that was where we would give them a written document and get them to perform an exercise where they'd answer a question. So after doing what we did and sitting down and run through it, we obviously, like I mentioned, realised it didn't serve a purpose. So our assessment centres have changed significantly. We do a tour, but we engage the department. So rather than us touring around the business, we have people on the sales and customer experience floor, for example, who will actively greet us when we get there and talk the guys through what their worlds look like, so it's a little bit more personable. When we go into the assessment centre itself, it's much shorter, it's catchy. We're giving them tips, because let's be honest, as a candidate, that's what you want to hear. You want to hear what's going to help you get through the assessment centre, as opposed to the whole history of AO, which hopefully they've done their own research before then anyway. So we make that very engaging, very quick. We've got some great videos that we've added in there now, which are just little clips from the floor. And we also bring our hiring managers in at this point, where they will do an introduction to themselves and share the incredible journeys that they've had through AO. We're lucky to say that 80% of our managers in the contact centre have grown internally. It's a great story, we just weren't sharing it. So they share that to get the guys excited and again to get the buy-in. We then move on to an introduction. So their introduction now is a mystery question. We have a box with loads of different questions, from 3 people you'd invite to dinner to favourite holiday destination. The purpose of this task is to break the ice. We're asking somebody to stand up in front of a room full of people that they don't know and talk. We're testing the confidence, we're testing their resilience. We just want to get to know them a little bit better and them to feel a bit more comfortable. Brief summary on what they've been doing in their career so far, that's it. The next exercise we do, now this took some debating for us to get to this stage. We wanted a group exercise where we could see how people work together as a group, but how they come through as individuals, where we can see their opinions and not just what it is that we want to hear in buzzwords. And that was quite tough to get to. What we do now is called the cave exercise. Has anyone heard of it, first of all? Nope, just you two. So what we do there is we give them a scenario. It's 5 people are trapped within a cave. It gives a profile of each of these individual people. We get them to work together as a full group to work out in which order would they save these people. Now, there is no right or wrong. It's just purely opinion-led to see how they convey their opinions. And the best thing about this challenge was people lose sight of where they are, and their opinions really do come out, and they get quite passionate. We trialled it as a recruitment team, and me and Chris were on completely different page. It nearly broke our friendship. But yeah, we've got... there's a few profiles in there. For example, there's a girl that's on the verge of finding a cure for a massive illness. There's a guy in there that has served as a veteran before and he's injured. And it's great to hear how people share those opinions and how we get to the end conclusion. And then the final exercise that they do is from a sales perspective, where we have what we call a mystery box. It is a box full of random objects. It's got everything from a blow-up banana to a pen. The guys will pick something at random, and this is for our sales role. We will get them to prepare a 30-second elevator pitch. So we want them to talk at us for 30 seconds, selling this item. They can be as creative and out there as they want to be. We're not bothered. We just want them to use that time. And again, the skills we're looking for is the resilience, the confidence, how exciting can they make it. It's a bit of a tough one. Can they use that full 30 seconds, which realistically they should be able to do. So put that into place, and we'll call one name at a time. When the 30 seconds is up, they'll sit back down and we'll call the next person, hence the elevator pitch, until everybody's gone. What we found from this part is that we're testing group exercise, individual, confidence, sales, teamwork, and a load of other values that we put together at the start of the process, and we're able to actually serve a purpose.
One of the things about the cave exercise, apart from the fact that me and Mel went at each other for 10 minutes on why someone shouldn't be saved, you really get to see the empathy that they get from why they want to save a candidate. And being in customer experience or in customer services, that's a really powerful skill to have, is to be able to demonstrate empathy, especially when you've got customers on the other end of the line that have issues with either your service or product, whatever it might be. So one of the things that we decided to do really well is we took a lot more of a cross-functional approach. So previously, the assessment centre and everything around it was very much based around opinions on the hiring managers and the recruiter. What we did was take, like Mel said earlier, the guys from L&D, HR, recruitment, and the sales and the customer service teams all together. She mentioned the focus groups, but it wasn't just about the content and delivery. It wasn't just about how it was going to look, but how that continued the journey when the candidates were successful. So how does the task that they worked on link in with the development that they have in the first 3 to 6 months?
And again, the delivery is a big part of that. So I'm sure working in recruitment, a few of you would have worked with difficult hiring managers before. And for us specifically in sales, it was making sure that when we're taking half a day away from those guys, that it was serving that purpose, but that they were engaged as well. So as a recruitment team, it's making sure that what we're delivering is engaging, that we're getting both the candidate and our stakeholder buy-in. So again, through different touch points, and it's walking around whilst they're doing exercises, checking how, little things such as checking how they're doing, offering drinks around. We always have sweets. I know it sounds like a no-brainer, but we always have sweets and drinks when they get in there, just to, you know, make it a little bit more comfortable.
We adopted a lot of the agile approach and agile methodologies into how we not only do the assessment centres, but where we take it from there. So our assessment centre, in our eyes, is never the finished article. So we do a lot of retros on or retrospectives on how we feel the assessment centres have gone, how the candidates have performed, how our assessment content has affected how they perform, because ultimately we want to give a platform where everyone can be encouraged to deliver to their best of ability without having to single people out. We do daily stand-ups on where we're at, tracking to the candidates that we're getting in on to sign up for the assessment centres and assessment days, and then right through to every part of the conversion funnel. So we have stand-up boards that we have a look at the tickets on, we do the retros, and we do weekly scrums as well to talk about where we're up to with specific elements of the recruitment process.
A piece of feedback that we got from some of the candidates that did come in to see us for assessment centres said it was quite daunting. Bearing in mind that we do recruit quite a grad and part-time role, so potentially sometimes having people in that had very little experience. So something that we do immediately is just try to settle the nerves a little bit, to let them know they're not in competition with each other. If they were all brilliant, we really would give them all a job. We wouldn't want people to leave that are brilliant, and it's settling the nerves so that when they're sat in the room, they're not eyeing up the other candidates around them, trying to suss out who's better, and just relaxing them a little bit to let them know we're there to support them. So what does all that mean? So yeah, we took the marshmallows out, we put some great content in, we built relationships with our hiring managers, and we got them fully bought into the process so that it made a difference, and we massively improved those candidate touch points. What did that mean in terms of from a data perspective? Well, first of all, I'll be really honest to say, we actually didn't have any data, so we didn't actually used to look at how many people attended, how many dropped out, what was the conversion. So it's something that we've just started to do now over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, and it has made an incredible difference to us. We can now see that our conversion levels from assessment centres have gone from 40% to 63%. We can see that our quality has gone massively in terms of what we've seen from attrition and retention. So just to give you an idea, we lost one core sales agent since September last year to date, which is just incredible for us because we're bringing in the right quality and assessing people in the right way. We have become much more data-driven, and it's something that we've really got the team bought into as well, so that they believe that the data does matter. So we record source as well, so we can look at key trends. Where do our better recruits come from? We look at what their length of service is to date, so we can manage that too. So there's loads of elements of data that we now look at where we can actually make better decisions off the back of.
A huge thing that we've started to implement now is around feedback. So not only the candidates' feedback, but the stakeholders' feedback as well. So everyone that attends assessment centres will get emailed a feedback form that just very short form, because we obviously want to encourage engagement with it, just to give us an idea of how they thought the assessment centre went, how it was ran, any improvements that we can take from it, but also that for the stakeholders as well, so that the hiring managers, what their thoughts were, how they thought it went, what the quality of the candidates were like, and that all adds to the retros that we do on a monthly basis.
And then just the last thing on that, we've now won a couple of awards as well, which just show the difference in what we're doing, because going back to where we were to where we are now and sharing that journey has been really significant. So specifically within the contact centre world, we won the UK CCF, so it's Contact Centre Forum Recruitment Team of the Year, just off the back of some of the results we were able to share with them and them coming in to have a look at what we do. And we've also won 2 BESMA awards as well for our sales team and our sales departments, which is really good for us.
Yeah, it was a really good year for us. So what's next for us? I'm conscious on time, so I'll fire through these a little bit. Just some of the considerations that we have moving forward. So we're doing a lot of work at the minute around diversity and inclusivity, around general awareness around how our our assessment centres are they inclusive? So whether it's a physical disability or something on, along the neurological diversity scale. So I've been working with the likes of Theo, who's actually talking right now, and getting him to not only educate us, but the wider team, so the wider people team, the wider departments. So we're considering video applications as well, just in regards to the amount of applications that we do get for someone specifically in candidate in customer experience. It's hard to see off a CV really how good they are when it's a very sort of people-focused role. So what we will probably find with video applications is that the quantity will drop, but hopefully the quality will rise in the applications that we get. And then finally, the interview scheduling. There's a real issue or timepiece that we have around fitting these telephone interviews in, booking in assessment centres. So we're looking at trying to automate that a bit more. So basically, just to summarise very quickly then, some key points that I think really need to take away from this is to reflect and protect your values and your culture. So, if you're corporate, then don't hide it. If you're fun, show it. But ultimately, just be human.
Designing appropriate but fair tasks, so making sure that they're equal and there's an opportunity for all different learning types and abilities to really showcase what they've got and what they can bring to the table. Also agree what you'll measure and how. That was a fundamental one for us, so it's really levelling with your hiring managers and stakeholders and with our recruitment team to understand what it is we're looking for and making sure that we're all on the same page. And
again, I just spoke about it very recently, is the feedback as well. So all candidates to go away completely understanding why they were successful or unsuccessful. We really want to make sure that, we don't want to leave a bitter taste in the mouth. We want them to know exactly why they were unsuccessful on this occasion. And the guys are working really hard on providing that feedback to each individual candidate, regardless of where they are in the process. And then finally, we talked about it again, just collect the data and react to it. So Mel talks about the conversions that we look into now, about actually how many people say they're going to attend the assessment centres, then actually do turn up, right through to the source of these candidates, the time it's taken us to source these candidates, and the cost as well. But yeah, so that's kind of our journey with AO over the last year and how we've adapted our assessment centres. So yeah, thank you. Any questions?